Is that appropriate to say, tell your donors, this is the extremist of the month, this hateful, racist guy is really bad, send us money, but not tell those donors who you're taking their money from that we're paying this guy $140,000? Is that appropriate? Field Source 42 got 140 grand from the Southern Poverty Law Center, was featured on their webpage as extremist of the year or month or whatever they call these bad guys. Unlawful. Is the Alliance Defending Freedom, is that a hate group?
I don't know.
Southern Poverty Law Center, is that a hate group? Because the ADF, they didn't firebomb anybody, but Jane's Revenge did. ADF is labeled a hate group. Jane's Revenge isn't. I want to know how you would label. They called them field sources. Individuals the Southern Poverty Law Center paid to gin up hate, the very hate they told their supporters that they were fighting. Field source number 37, F37, coordinated transportation and attended the 2017 rally in Charlottesville. The Southern Poverty Law Center paid him $270,000. $270,000 to the guy who helped put together the event where a young lady was killed. Field source number 9, he got $1 million over 9 years. F unknown. We don't know what number this guy was, but we do know he was the Imperial Wizard of the Klan, whatever that means, and he was on the Southern Poverty Law Center payroll. F27, Southern Poverty Law Center paid him $300,000 in 6 years, and what did he do? He ran the Aryan Nation Motorcycle Club. F43, he was president of some crazy group.
Today, I'm breaking down a heated congressional hearing where Representative Jim Jordan challenged witnesses over the Southern Poverty Law Center, allegations involving paid field sources, and claims of close ties between advocacy groups and the federal government. The exchange quickly turned into a sharp debate over transparency, political influence, and who gets labeled as a hate group in America. Jordan opened with a direct question. He challenged witnesses over reports that individuals connected to extremist organizations allegedly received money from the Southern Poverty Law Center while also being highlighted publicly as dangerous extremists. Jordan questioned whether donors were told their money was allegedly funding people being showcased as threats. His argument was straightforward. Whether something is legal and whether it is appropriate are two different questions. The hearing immediately became tense as witnesses struggled to give a direct answer. Jordan then shifted toward how hate groups are labeled. He questioned why organizations like Alliance Defending Freedom have received hate group labels while groups accused of violent acts, such as Jane's Revenge, were not included in the same way. Jordan argued that the standards appear inconsistent and raised concerns about whether political viewpoints influence how these labels are assigned. Witnesses responded by saying they were not responsible for making those determinations. And if you want more congressional hearing breakdowns and political investigations explained clearly, click the subscribe button and stay updated with the latest stories from Washington.
Is that appropriate to say, tell your donors, this is the extremist of the month, this hateful, racist guy is really bad, send us money, but not tell those donors who you're taking their money from that we're paying this guy $140,000? Is that appropriate? Field Source 42 got 140 grand from the Southern Poverty Law Center, was featured on their webpage as extremist of the year or month or whatever they call these bad guys. Sure. Is that technique appropriate? That's what I'm asking.
It's not unlawful to say that people have done
I didn't ask if it was lawful or unlawful. Is the Alliance Defending Freedom, is that a hate group?
I don't know.
Southern Poverty Law Center labeled them a hate group. Are they a hate group?
I don't know them, and I don't work on the designations.
Well, here's one. Is Jane's Revenge, is that a hate group? Because the ADF, they didn't firebomb anybody, but Jane's Revenge did. ADF is labeled a hate group. Jane's Revenge isn't. I want to know how you would label. They called them field sources. Individuals the Southern Poverty Law Center paid to gin up hate, the very hate they told their supporters that they were fighting. Field source number 37, F37, coordinated transportation and attended the 2017 rally in Charlottesville. The Southern Poverty Law Center paid him $270,000. $270,000 to the guy who helped put together the event where a young lady was killed. Field source number 9, he got $1 million over 9 years. F unknown. We don't know what number this guy was, but we do know he was the Imperial Wizard of the Klan, whatever that means, and he was on the Southern Poverty Law Center payroll. F27, Southern Poverty Law Center paid him $300,000 in 6 years, and what did he do? He ran the Aryan Nation Motorcycle Club. F43. He was president of some crazy group, and he was previously convicted of cross burning, but the Southern Poverty Law Center thought he was worth $19,000 of their donors' money. All told, $3 million. $3 million to manufacture hate. Remember when Rahm Emanuel said, never let a crisis go to waste? The SPLC took it a step further. They went one better. They said, we're going to create the crisis. We're going to manufacture the crisis. And by so doing, they became the standard, the source for determining who's a hate group and who isn't. And of course, they labeled good pro-family organizations, conservative organizations as hate groups, like the Family Research Council is with us today, like Moms for Liberty, like Turning Point USA. Even the Alliance Defending Freedom has argued won numerous cases in front of the Supreme Court. They labeled them all hate groups. But not Jane's Revenge. Nope. Even though Jane's Revenge firebombed and vandalized churches, crisis pregnancy centers in the aftermath of the Dobbs decision, they never made the Southern Poverty Law Center's list. And the Biden administration, they helped make the SPLC the standard. They consulted with the Southern Poverty Law Center. They had quarterly meetings with them. Lisa Monaco, the Deputy Attorney General, the lady who runs the Justice Department during the Biden administrations, had quarterly meetings with the Southern Poverty Law Center. They gave the SPLC first look at FBI data, and they used them to train their prosecutors. And it all paid off. It all paid off. Just ask Mark Houck what happens when you train the prosecutors. They kicked in his door at 6 in the morning in front of him and his 7 kids, arrested him. Of course, the jury found him not guilty. They couldn't just go talk to him, even though his lawyer said, he'll meet you wherever. Come, we'll meet you at the court. Nope. Kick in his door, harass him in front of his wife and family. Mr. O'Neill, they had an extremist file webpage, didn't they?
Yes.
And they would, on this webpage, they would pick out some crazy hate guy, and they would, some bad guy, and he was like the extremist of the month. They'd highlight him, and they would say, send us money to stop so-and-so. Is that right?
Exactly.
And F42 was one of the field sources, number 42, chair of some crazy hate group. The Southern Poverty Law Center highlighted him on their webpage. He's bad, he's evil, send us money. Is that right?
Yes.
Did they tell their prospective donors they were paying this guy?
No.
They didn't tell him. Did they tell him they were paying him $140,000?
No, not to my knowledge.
So they said, let's stop the racists, even though we're paying him to be racist. That was their pitch. But they didn't tell him that, did they?
No, they did not.
Is that appropriate, Ms. Wiley?
I'm sorry, which part? Sorry.
All of that. Is that appropriate to say, tell your donors, this is the extremist of the month. This hateful racist guy is really bad. Send us money. But not tell those donors who you're taking their money from that we're paying this guy $140,000. Is that appropriate?
Well, we have public reporting that over a dozen donors actually said that they
simple
spent
question.
the money
Field
as intended.
Source 42 got $140,000 from the Southern Poverty Law Center, was featured on their webpage as extremist of the year or month or whatever they call these bad guys, and they were paying him and they were gating money. Is that appropriate? Simple question.
And donors have supported it, and they keep trying to send
So
more
it is
money
appropriate.
to the Southern Poverty Law
No.
Center.
Is that technique appropriate? That's what I'm asking.
That is not unlawful to say that people have done
I didn't
X,
ask if
Y,
it was
or
lawful or
Z.
unlawful. As you said earlier in your testimony, the court's going to determine that when they go to when they go to trial. What I'm asking you, is it appropriate?
As I said, the donors have spoken. And in fact, they're trying to send more money now, and their financial institutions refusing to send the money.
Is the Alliance Defending Freedom, is that a hate group?
I don't know. I don't do designations.
Well, they've argued 16 cases before the Supreme Court, won 16 cases before the Supreme Court. They stand for traditional values. Southern Poverty Law Center labeled them a hate group. Are they a hate group?
I don't know them, and I don't work on the designations.
Well, here's one thing.
I'm here to talk about
let me
the
ask you
impact
this.
on
Is
civil
Jane's
rights.
Revenge, is that a hate group? Because the ADF, they didn't firebomb anybody, but Jane's Revenge did. ADF is labeled a hate group. Jane's Revenge isn't. I want to know how you would label.
I'm not here as a person who designates groups. I'm here to talk about the impact on civil rights.
Okay. Mr. O'Neill, you think any of these field sources were double dipping? I mean, during the Biden, Ray, Garland administration, the Justice Department paid a bunch of confidential human sources, a bunch of them. We know a bunch of them were at the Capitol on January 6th. 4 went in the Capitol. And I'm just wondering if the same entity, the Justice Department under President Biden, paying these confidential human sources, who was working with the Southern Poverty Law Center, having quarterly meetings with them, consulting with them, giving them FBI data before anyone else could see it, having them train their prosecutors. I'm just wondering, do you think it was out of the realm of possibility that the Justice Department was paying the same sources the SPLC was paying?
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I have no information or knowledge that they were double dipping. I would say that Stephen J. Ross, who is author of The Secret War Against Hate, which is about the history of informants that Jewish groups had placed in some of these violent groups back, decades and decades before the SPLC ever existed. He said that neither the ADL nor the American Jewish Committee nor the Anti-Nazi League did anything like highlighting informants online as in extremist profiles while also funding them.
Yeah. Last question, I'll come to you, Mr. Perkins. In your opening statement, you talked about how it was just worse than the SPLC because how they've put themselves out there or become the standard of help from the government, I think, in becoming the source of the standard on evaluating and determining what groups are hate groups, what groups aren't. But it's bigger and broader. It has things. But I think the real thing here is how closely they worked with the government to carry out what they were trying to do. And the reason the Biden administration embraced them, I think, so fully was politics, simple politics. You agree?
Well, there are members of this committee that were endorsed by SPLC. They had a C4 was involved in elections. So they were not just an umpire. They were a player on the field as well. So how can they be objective in determining who is a purveyor of hate and who is not? I mean, they had a stake in this. But to your point about their engagement with government, it goes much further than the federal government and the FBI and the Department of Justice and the Department of Defense, which their material was in briefing to the members of the military. But they also continue to have their Learning for Justice, which is about 500,000 educators across America, and bulletins to local law enforcement. And I happen to know because the agency I was with, the sheriff called me and said, hey, we got a bulletin that says you're a part of a hate group.
Yep.
And he was laughing.
Yep.
But that is the reach that they've had. This is the hub. They're the hub, but they're spokes that go out.
No, I think that's an appropriate metaphor. My time is...
The hearing then moved into questions about the relationship between the SPLC and federal agencies. Jordan referenced claims involving meetings with Justice Department officials, prosecutor training, and alleged consultation with federal agencies. He questioned whether outside organizations gained unusual influence over government decisions and law enforcement approaches during the Biden administration. Witnesses discussed concerns surrounding cooperation between advocacy groups and federal institutions, raising broader questions about independence and oversight. The discussion widened beyond federal agencies. Witnesses argued that the SPLC's influence extends into education programs, law enforcement bulletins, and military training materials. Jordan and committee members questioned whether organizations involved in politics and advocacy should also serve as trusted arbiters on extremism and hate group designations. The larger issue, according to critics, is whether these partnerships blur the line between activism and government authority. This hearing exposed deep divisions over political advocacy, public trust, and government cooperation with outside organizations. Supporters argue these relationships help identify extremism, while critics warn they risk politicizing public institutions. What do you think? Fair oversight or government overreach? Drop your thoughts in the comments.